Good afternoon. This is a meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission of the City of Laredo. Today is July the 5th of 2018. I'm calling this meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Erasmo Villarreal,
Present.
Jose Tellez, Carlos Flores, Javier Compián, Raúl Ogalde,
Present.
Johnny Narvaez,
Present.
Joe Villarreal,
Present.
Danny Lopez,
Present.
Jorge Dominguez.
Present.
For the record, Mr. Shoreham, you do have quorum.
Thank you. Okay, the next item we have is, could everybody please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, the next item we have is the approval of the minutes. I'll give the commissioners a few minutes to look over them, and then I'll entertain a motion. This one. All right, does anybody have any comments on the minutes or any corrections or deletions?
I move to approve the minutes dated June 7th, 2018 and June 21st, 2018.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
And a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Those against? The motion carries, thank you. The next item that we have is a public hearing and recommendation of an ordinance amending the conditional use permit of an amusement redemption machine establishment issued on Lot 1, Block 1, Anil and Associate Subdivision Phase 1, located at 9110 McPherson Road, Suite 2, by repealing ordinance number 2016-0-129, authorizing the original CUP, and authorizing the issuance of a revised CUP, changing the tenant. This is a public hearing. Anyone who wishes to speak in favor of this change? Yes, sir.
Good evening, Commissioner. This is Anil Gupta. I'm the owner of the building and I'm applied to changing the tenant for the CUP.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Gupta? Commission? No. Thank you. In favor. All right. Anybody else wish to speak in favor? In favor of the, anybody who wishes to speak against the issuance of conditional use permit? Against? Okay. What are the wishes of the commission?
I'll make a motion to follow staff's recommendation on the amendment to existing CUP to change the proposed tenant.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? Second. And a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those against? Motion carries. Thank you. Next item that we have is review and consideration of the following master plans. Item 7A, review and consideration of the Stamford Heights subdivision master plan. The intent is residential and commercial. Okay. Pages it out. 53. Need to see who- there's a hassle with this thing.
Click on these positives.
Since you hear what I was there.
The one back. I'll go the arrow up.
All right.
That's it.
Okay.
Minimize it with my
Yeah. Okay, the request is review and consideration, and the site is a 14.03 acre tract located north of Jackman Road and east of Casa Verde Road. The zoning for this 77 lot development is R1. The tract is located in District 5. The proposed action approved subject to the following comments from planning, from engineering, from traffic, from Parks and Leisure, and a notice to developer from planning. All right, the engineer of record is Sherfy Engineering.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. My name is Frank Estrada with Sherfy Engineering, and we concur with staff comments.
I have a few questions for you.
Yes, sir.
Number one, you have phase 1 and phase 2.
That's correct.
You have a street that you're gonna build on, I think it's Missy, or what is the name of that street?
It is messy,
All right.
messy street.
When is that street proposed to go in?
Under phase 2 of the development, or initially, we're gonna go forward with phase 1 of the development, which will connect to the cul-de-sac, but there will be phase 2 following right behind it that'll bring in that particular road.
Are you, well, I also noticed there was a comment there from utilities where you had to loop your sewer.
There is right now discussions with the utilities department in regards to how we're gonna sewer the property. There's a sewer line that runs along Casa Verde Road, along the, I guess you would say, the northwesterly
Right.
side of it. And there's a lift station that's located on the subdivision to the north.
Yeah, but that lift station's out of capacity.
That is correct. And of course, the options, some of the options that were given is maybe an upgrade of sorts. So that is discussions with the owner at this time to make sure that the subdivision is properly served.
Okay, now, right now we have an existing subdivision there, and you're proposing to drive through that existing subdivision to your phase 1.
That is
And
correct.
that is Lucia. What, and then Lucia's a 50-foot right-of-way with what, 31 back-to-back?
31 back to back, that is correct.
So in a subdivision like this, normally you're gonna have cars parked on each side of the street, which reduces your street to about 10 feet, one traveling lane. So that's not a good plan.
The tract itself is limited very, I mean, it's a 250-foot frontage. Other than that, there aren't many, there is no public access to a street other than Casa Verde.
Exactly.
It's 200 feet there. The property itself needs access. Fortunately, the subdivision where the cul-de-sac currently exists, they didn't close it off. They actually ended where they still left room for a connection in the future. My guess,
I think there's a lot of people here that.
it's a
are gonna speak,
it's a
and I'm-
cul-de-sac, but if we pull out the plat itself doesn't close off.
Yeah, that is
What
correct.
exists on the ground
That is correct.
is a cul-de-sac, but
That
they
is
left room to where there would be a connection, possible connection in the future.
I mean,
Typically, a cul-de-sac, we see it where it closes off and there's no way to get in, it's just lots. In this
All right.
particular case, they extended it all the way to meet the track itself.
right, okay, but now you're bringing in a bunch of traffic down on Lucia. It would seem more logical to me to come in with the other road that you're proposing to access this subdivision. I mean, if you're gonna go on a 10-foot access, with cement trucks, carpenters, electricians, plumbers, and everybody, that's gonna impact the hell out of the neighborhood.
Right now, what we're proposing is the phase 1. We are proposing that particular connection. I think a 50-foot right-of-way more than services the whole entire area. We're only bringing 76 lots into the property.
That's a lot of trip generations if you're gonna put on this particular street.
It's a lot of trip generations, but no more so to start asking for a collector of sorts. It's a typical residential subdivision. We're including one additional phase.
Yeah, but the
We
phase you're
don't
including
see
is much
that
greater
much
than the
additional
front.
traffic being created at this time.
I do.
Okay?
I do see a lot of traffic being created. That's 77 lots, and if you just put a simple 2 trip generations, per lot, that's a hell of a lot. And normally it's not gonna be 2, it's gonna be 4 to 6 per lot. That's a lot.
Okay.
I think, from my opinion, you may wanna look at this thing some more. Cause I don't think that particular access that you're proposing right now is gonna work
Okay.
immediately.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, I had some communication with some of the members that they had called me, and we have some of the members of Lucia that are very concerned with the traffic. They were actually concerned because that subdivision was ended on the cul-de-sac. One of the reasons that cul-de-sac was not closed, and this information from the developer, is because he had some type of agreement, only a right of way to enter the property to that road. It wasn't actually to access or to connect Lucia into development. That's one of the questions that I have. The second one is that since they need to connect the water to a loop and the sewer, it cannot be, actually it would not be appropriate for the residents in Lucia for it to be phase one and phase two. I think it would be more appropriate that you make one phase, actually one development that includes the commercial and the residential. And I'll tell you why. We've seen that you do phase one, and then all of a sudden, you know what, they sold the property, we're no longer the owners, so we ended up burdening some of the members of the community because the engineer, he brings it to us, and that's his job, to provide the development, or at least the plan for development. But after that, he's not in charge of doing the construction. See, that's entirely by the owner. Let me finish. So the concern from the residents on Lucia is true, and it's valid concern because of the traffic. I personally visit the area, and we can see a lot of vehicles parked on the street that will impact negatively the flow of vehicles when you bring another 150 cars going through that street. So that's even dangerous for the community. I would suggest that we deny this until we bring something that actually calls for a one phase, or in there they're bringing the utilities and the flow of vehicles to the community are good. Casa Verde is not a collector. At least it has not been designated a collector.
Yeah.
See? So it's creating problems there.
Okay, do you have anything else to add? Are you willing to
I
table
guess-
the item until you can work this thing out? Because like I said, I don't think the commission is gonna authorize this. I mean, right now, the way we see it, we have residents here that are
Right.
present, are concerned. From a planning point of view, this doesn't seem like a good plan. And it's up to us, a commission, to make sure that whatever gets approved works for all the residents, okay? And it is a concern to us right now.
Since we're here, we have no issue with actually tabling the item for the next meeting. We can visit with staff. It was not a comment from the traffic department. There was no comments from anybody. I understand as a commission, you are here to serve the public.
Right.
And appreciate your service, absolutely. Thank you. Nonetheless, if we can have the opportunity to visit with staff, although staff's comments, nobody from any of the departments made a comment in regards to this. I guess I'd like your feedback, only because any meeting that we have with staff is gonna be relative to what's in the comments.
Right.
So whatever feedback you have as of right now, please do so. That way we can come back and come back in 2 weeks and have something presented to you
Well-
that you'll be in favor of.
I think most of the commission right now, when they looked at this particular plat, they would prefer that this probably come back as one phase.
Okay?
I believe that's what most of the commission is looking at, and so we'll give you, if you're willing, you know, we're willing to table this, let you
Okay.
meet with staff, maybe redesign and come back, to the commission.
Okay, we will be more than happy to table it, time certain.
Okay?
Yes, sir.
Can I have a motion to that effect?
Motion to table?
Second.
There is, just so the commission is aware, phase one is behind this, under,
I
I
saw
think
it.
it's 7E. So I guess we would table that one as well.
Table, yeah.
Okay.
You wanna table both items? We'll call one item.
Let's table them both. Yeah.
Okay, I'll go ahead and make a motion to table both items related to the subdivision.
Okay. A motion, second?
Second.
And a second. All those in favor? Aye. All those against? Motion carries. Thank
I
you.
have a question for Nathan. I was gonna have to recuse myself from 7B. Does this affect 7B? Or is it just 7A? Okay, all right.
7A. Just 7A.
7A,
An eight.
If I,
8A.
Oh, 88, okay, okay, I'm just confused, I'm sorry.
Mr. Chairman, if I can briefly address the citizens that
Yeah.
were here, just to let them know what,
Yeah, look, go ahead.
Just so you know, it was tabled, so the staff can actually talk to the engineer and try to bring something that that will erase your worries as to the development. So the item it's done, and you can come back in 2 weeks, and or you can contact staff so that if you have any questions with that, or you can call me. I don't have any problem, or Admo Villarreal, and then we'll direct you to one of the other persons that will actually help you with that. But for the time being, it was tabled, so there's no more action in this item.
Okay, I have a question.
Thank you for coming.
Nathan, okay, I have to recuse myself from 7A and 9A. I'm sorry, 7B and 9A. Can we combine those two so that I can step out at the same, for both? It's the same developer.
Yeah, but I thought you wouldn't make that motion. I'll make the motion.
Not, for me not to make the motion, right?
I'll make any motions regarding.
Well, I'm gonna step out. You all do whatever you want. But
Okay, so
let me know when y'all are done.
we jumped, I guess the citizens, we jumped, so they were informed of what's happening, right? They're aware that we tabled the item, we're coming back with something that's more feasible, right?
Yes.
So then I'll make a motion to hear item 7B together with, what was the other item? 9A?
9A.
So 7B and 9A to hear them together.
Okay, so you're tabling
7B.
7B, we're doing 7B.
And 9A.
Yes, and my
All
motion
right,
is to
Let's do 7B.
hear both of them together, 7B and 9A.
Well, let's do 7B first, because they're,
Okay,
Well, I think you
Individual item.
second the motion.
motion to table
Wait.
item 7B, is that,
no, we're gonna hear 7B,
okay.
okay?
But I made the motion, I think somebody has to
You make the
second.
motion to bring it up or what? It's already the
To
next
hear them
item.
together.
Do it together?
Okay, we have a motion to hear 7B and, what is it, 8B?
9A.
9A together.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Right?
Okay. Let's go to 7B right now. 7B is a request for review and consideration of track 29 Ranchitos 4, Los Minerales Master Plan. The intent is commercial. This is a 4.82 acre tract located west of the Silver Mine Road and south of FM 1472. The zoning for the two-lot development is AG. The proposed action is approved subject to the following comments from planning, from engineering, water and utilities, and a notice to developer. The engineer of record is Guerra Engineering. Guerra Engineering. Okay, the engineer's not present. I'm assuming that he's in agreement with all the comments. Is that correct, Mr. Bratton? As far as you know?
We haven't heard from him, sir.
Okay.
We put our comments out there and,
All right. What are the wishes of the commission?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
second.
And a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those against? Motion carries. Thank you. We're now gonna go to items 9A. Item 9A is a preliminary reconsideration of tract 29 Ranchitos 4, the Los Minerales plat. The intent is commercial. And the site is a 1.89 acre tract located west of Silver Mine Road and south of FM 72. The zoning for this one lot development is AG, and the proposed action is approved subject to the following comments from planning, from engineering, water and utilities, and a notice to developer from planning. What are the wishes of the commission?
Make a motion to approve, subject to the following comments.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second?
And a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those against? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, getting back to the agenda. This is item 8A. You get it?
Yeah.
All right, item 8A. This is preliminary consideration of the plat of Concord Terrace subdivision. The intent is residential. The site is 3.74 acre tract. It's located south of Gage Avenue and east of Concord Hills Boulevard. The zoning for this 28 lot development is R1A. The tract is located in District 2. The proposed action is approved subject to the following comments from planning, engineering, water and utilities, parks and leisure, Webb County, and a notice to developer. Yes, sir?
So my name is Armando Guerra with Premier Engineering, representing the client. We concur with all the comments except for the comment for water and utilities, number 2. I spoke with the utilities department and they agreed to remove that comment because that's actually gonna be determined during one-stop shop. And they were asking us to connect to a sewer which is on top of the subdivision, which is the highest point. And after I spoke with them, they were okay with just removing the comment. And staff was copied on the email. But other than that, we concur with all the other comments.
Okay, so utilities, did y'all get that email from, you got the, yes? Okay, okay. So if you got that from utilities, that's fine. I got no problem. What are the wishes of the commission? Any questions for the engineer? No? What are the wishes of the commission?
Make a motion to approve subject to the following comments and removing the comment under water and utilities, number 2.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
And a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those against? Motion carries. Thank you. Next item that we have is item 8B. Preliminary consideration of the plat of Lot 1, Block 1, Alexander Crossing Plaza. The intent is commercial. The site is a 1.5 acre tract located east of Bartlett Avenue and west of D and J Alexander subdivision, Unit 20. The zoning for this one lot development is B3. The proposed action is approved subject to the following comments from planning, engineering, water and utilities, and a notice to developer from planning.
Guerra, with the Premier representing the client, we concur with the comments.
Okay. Any questions for the engineer? No? With that, what are the wishes of the commission?
Make a motion to approve subject to the following comments.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
And a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those against? The motion carries. Thank you. All right. Next item is item 8C. Preliminary consideration of the plat of lots 2 and 3, Block 2, Alexander Crossing Plaza. The intent is commercial. This is a .92 acre tract located east of Bartlett and west of D&J Alexander subdivision, Unit 20. The rezoning for the 2 lot development is B3. The proposed action is approved subject to the following comments from planning, engineering, water and utilities, and a notice to developer.
Once again, we concur with the comments.
Okay. Wishes of the commission.
I'll make a motion to approve subject to the following comments.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those against? Motion carries. Thank you. The next item is the preliminary consideration of the plat of Lot 1, Block 3, Alexander Crossing Plaza. The intent is commercial. This is a 1 acre tract located west of D&J Alexander subdivision, Unit 20, and north of University Boulevard. The zoning for this 1 lot development is R2. The proposed action is approved subject to the following comments from planning, engineering, water and utilities, and a notice to developer from planning.
Once again, we concur with comments.
Okay. What are the wishes of the commission?
A motion to approve, subject to the comments.
All right.
I'll second that.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those against? Motion carries. Thank you. The next item is gonna be tabled already. So we go to item 8F. Preliminary consideration of the plat of Gallows properties. The intent is commercial. The site is a 2.71 acre tract located north of FM 1472 and east of Coppermine Road. The zoning for this 1 lot development is AG. The proposed action is approved subject to the following comments from planning, engineering, water and utilities, and a notice to developer from planning. Engineer of record, Mr. Castillo.
Good evening, commissioners, staff.
Oscar Castillo with Pegua Consulting for the record, and we concur with the comments.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Castillo from the commission? If not, what are the wishes of the commission?
Make a motion to approve?
A motion and a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those against? Motion carries. Thank you. We now move on to item 10A. Item 10A is the final consideration of the plat of River Hill subdivision, River Hill South subdivision, phase 1. The intent is residential, and the proposed action is approved. Do we have a motion to that effect?
Make a motion to approve?
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those against? Motion carries. Thank you. The next item is 10B. Final consideration of El Metate plat. The intent is commercial. This is a .267 acre tract and it's located south of Delmar Boulevard and east of I-35. The zoning for this one lot development is B3. The tract is located in District 5. The proposed action is approval.
Make a motion to approve?
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
And a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those against? Motion carries. Thank you. Next item is discussion and possible action regarding the city participation in the development of a homeowners association. Mr. Bratton,
Yes, sir.
or who's gonna lead the charge on this?
We have a handout for you that we want to distribute.
A handout? I guess before we move on, there's one item that I forgot to do. I forgot to excuse Commissioner Tellez and Commissioner Compiani, and I need a motion to that effect.
Make a motion to excuse Reyes and Mr. Compiano.
I got a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
And a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, what is it, take here, Mr. Bratton, for us to take this literature with us and study it and come back, or what?
Well, that and to have a discussion about the possible, creation within the city of some kind of a department or as part of a departmental responsibility to work with these neighborhood associations and homeowners associations. This was brought to my attention by Commissioner Flores, so he may want to say a little bit more about it, but El Paso, for example, is, this information came to us from his research. Obviously has an ordinance that talks about that, and sort of gives a seal of good approval, if you will, from the city to these different types of civic associations, neighborhood associations, neighborhood coalitions, recognized neighborhood associations, and so forth, to be recognized by the city. And then there's some steps they have to take to be recognized and so forth. But I think part of the problem, or part of what maybe is, and I'm just speculating because I haven't had a lot of discussion with Mr. Commissioner Flores on it, but I think the driving force or the driving agenda, if you will, for looking into this is that there are these homeowners associations, neighborhood associations out there. They get formed by the developer, and then the developer kind of leaves, and they're left to their own devices. And in some cases, they're not sure what to do, how to manage their association, how to, make sure things get done. And a lot of times they don't understand, the lien process for getting the dues and stuff like that, so they don't have any cash. And so they're kind of stuck with a non-functional entity. And I think the city, I think is maybe what Mr. Flores is thinking, I'll let him speak to it in a minute, he can confirm or modify or tell me I'm wrong, is in a good position to assist them to be organized, to be, active, for their own areas. This creates a lot better environment in the neighborhood, and the city has the expertise, or can have the expertise, to help them form these associations up to where they're viable and positive. And I'll let Mr. Flores fill in all the blanks for
You
you.
want to share some information with us?
Sure, yeah, of course, I'd love to. I guess first of all, I'd like to thank the city staff for bringing this agenda item tonight. I appreciate that. I'm gonna just give a little historical background of sort of like how I arrived at why we're here. The first thing was when I read the original master plan, or I guess comprehensive plan for the city, the one that predates this one. And one of the first things that it talked about is that in order for that comprehensive plan to be successful, you needed community buy-in, okay? And I think that the city did a great job in this new comprehensive plan in trying to engage the city. But unfortunately, in that process, it was probably a lot of the same people going to the same meetings, people that are really engaged. And so I felt like, or I believe, and I may be wrong, but I don't have any empirical data for it, but there's so many people that live in neighborhoods who like to see how their neighborhoods are developing or have ideas of how their neighborhoods can develop, didn't attend any of the meetings, didn't show up to these things, just because either they didn't know about it or there's just not something that they're used to. So going back to that original comp plan from the 90s, it said one of the keys for the success of that comp plan was community buy-in, right? So the neighborhood association is a way for the city to go into communities and organize meetings to talk to them about the comp plan, talk to them about master plans for their neighborhoods, talk to them about services that they would like to see from the city. It's also a great vehicle for creating what I call intergovernment or governmental partnerships. Like for instance, I'll give you an example. Like let's say you had Santo Niño had a neighborhood association, and they said, look, we would like to have access to computers. We would like to have access to some resources. And so then the city could come with the school district and meet with the neighborhood associations and say, okay, what services are we providing as a city? What services are the school district providing as a district? And have a shared services agreement with that neighborhood association so that more people would have access, like let's say to technology, for instance. So the neighborhood association becomes a vehicle for that particular neighborhood to come together and talk about their community, and it has some parameters of like what you have to do. Different cities have different parameters, but basically the parameters of what it is that you need in order to create a neighborhood association, and they have some requirements of maintaining it. And then that becomes a vehicle for those neighborhoods to do this. Now, there is already one neighborhood association that has existed in Laredo for some time now, and that's in the St. Peter's neighborhood. And that was created by a guy that used to serve on this commission, a guy named Juan Sebastian Mendive, and some of the people that are over there, and they have been very successful. And like that neighborhood, the St. Peter's neighborhood is a really great example of a neighborhood that would need a neighborhood association because it has beautiful old homes, it has historic homes. They make, like now they developed a new restaurant, Casa Lopez there. So these are things that, they're trying to beautify their area, they're trying to make it a vibrant part of the city. So these neighborhood associations are really a great way of doing that. And other cities like El Paso, like McAllen, Seattle, other cities, major cities, what they do is they will have a department that is dedicated to helping communities develop their neighborhood associations. They sort of walk them through the rules and regulations of how you need to form one, what meetings are for, how you operate your meetings, what are services that the city can provide to that neighborhood association. And the whole point is to empower neighborhoods that exist right now that don't have this type of structure. Now, a neighborhood association is different from a homeowners association. A homeowners association is in new subdivisions. They have HOA fees. And Mr. Brandon was correct. A lot of times the developer will create it, they'll have an HOA, but then like, no one runs it, they don't really have any meetings, they don't have any kind of support. And the consequence of that is that the standards that are set out for how that neighborhood is supposed to look and feel and be are really not accomplished. So this is another idea of, how do you, as a neighborhood, develop that neighborhood into the future, maintain that neighborhood in its present situation. And it's a major economic driver, I think, or could be a major economic driver for the city. Why? Because people want to move into neighborhoods that are great. And so if you can redevelop a downtowns like the St. Peter's area, and then I'm someone from out of town moving into the city, and now I can live in this neighborhood because I like historic homes, I might do that. And a neighborhood association in place might be doing things in order to develop that. So it does have an economic driver component to it. People want to live in great cities, and great cities have great neighborhoods. And so right now, I think there are a lot of neighborhoods in our cities, in this city, that could be developed. And so one of the comments here is like, they're there to help create master plans for the neighborhood. They're there to help preserve the neighborhood. I think it's important. And I think that we should consider recommending that city council adopt an ordinance that develops a neighborhood association department, or at least an office within the city manager's office, and then come up with a city ordinance for our community and for them to develop the neighborhood associations.
Why wouldn't you put it under planning or community development?
Well, wherever. I mean, I don't know what department it would be in.
Huh? Well, the key issue is gonna be one.
Yeah.
Is being able to, I don't know how much staff it would take. That's one of the key things. You need staff, you need office, you need vehicle, and you need a budget. And you are in the budget cycle right now. So that would be something that right now I say, I don't know, I think the budget of the city is always tight. They're always cutting budgets right and left. But that would be one of the things that, I think it's a great idea, but I think we need to figure out, there's some questions, I got a lot of questions. For example, I like the idea, but I got a lot of questions on take an old neighborhood like the Heights. Who would take the lead to form it? You know what I mean? And then the biggest question that I have is, what kind of power would the city have in some of these issues if you got into civil litigation? Like we've had in some of these subdivisions right now. We had that in Lakeside, we've got a potential coming up in another one. There's 2 or 3 right now that I know that are either in litigation because of the financial part or things not being done correctly and stuff. So I have questions and all that on how the mechanism and the enforcement and all that would come together.
There's 2 things that come to mind, and I think I understand what Commissioner Flores is saying, is that, newer developments, the developer comes in and he establishes a homeowners association, okay? And I mean, it pays dues, takes care of common areas and all that kind of stuff. And those are fine. I mean, they generally work and run themselves, or, the residents run them. They have their president and all that stuff. But those are fairly new creations, if you will, within the scheme of things, especially the Laredo. I mean, they haven't been around that long.
Well, probably 20 plus years.
Right.
25, 30 years.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
in the scope of things, they're fairly new. They're young. And not all neighborhoods, not all subdivisions have HOAs. The Heights, for example, Las Cruces, all these different areas, Azteca, all these
The
different
older
areas
parts of the city.
do not have
Right.
homeowners associations. Now, homeowners associations are binding, they're legally binding, entities. But a neighborhood association is not legally binding. But what it is it's a group of people who are interested in their neighborhood. They want to see it improve. They want to see certain things. So what I glean from that is it's less formal than an HOA. There's no dues associated with it or anything like that. But it's a way of getting community or a neighborhood involvement in some common interests together. And when you start to recognize those associations, they're defining a neighborhood for you. Like they'll come in and they'll say, well, we're the Heights Neighborhood Association. Well, what's your boundaries? Yeah. Where's the Heights? Because depending upon who you talk to, the Heights is, is this amorphous kind of area that's there, and it's, well, that's really not the Heights, I mean, I look at it one way and somebody else looks at it another way, and in fact, the master plan process is going on, not master plan, but the district plans for districts 3 and 4 are going on. And one of the first questions was, where is the Heights? I mean, what is the Heights? What all is there? So they had a big meeting and they had people come in and say, we think it's here, we think it's there. And they created this map that shows where most people think the parameters of the Heights is. To make that whole thing understandable, that area that we get the most consensus for being the Heights area would be the boundaries of a neighborhood association. And all those folks in there would then be contacted and say, hey, I'm a neighborhood association. The city's going to provide, the Canizadas Boxing Center or the Heights, Haynes Rec Center. We're going to have a meeting. We're going to talk about your neighborhood. We're going to talk about what's going on in your neighborhood. Let's get on a mailing list. Let's do all this stuff. Then the city would sort of offer some services, what I'm understanding here. So for example, zoning. There's going to be a zoning change. Well, normally you only notify people within 200 feet. But you can also notify the neighborhood association and send them a notice and say, hey guys, there's this move on to put, something right here in your neighborhood. It's not within 200 feet of your house, but it's, by law, but it gets that word out, and then more people are aware of what's happening and what the changes are. Do they think it's good? Do they think it's bad? They may be inspired to come and speak to the P&Z, the commission. They may want to come and speak to city council about whether or not they think that's a good idea, but they get to learn about it through the neighborhood association if they're tagged up to it. So that's one way things can go out. Another thing is that if there's some special event going on in the neighborhood, if there's something special happening, you can get that out to them from the city directly to them through their association or through an email to the association. They'll spread it to everybody. So that I think has a lot of value. The other thing that it can do is if there's problems, they can have a meeting once a year or once every 6 months at a public facility and invite everybody and say, hey, let's, sometimes the councilmen have these town hall meetings that they call them, but this would just be that association would get together and say, we've got, this problem, these parks aren't being kept up, or there's a big drainage problem here, there's a water, whatever. And they can express that directly to the city, and they can talk about it among themselves and kind of get that word out, and possibly things can be done. Safety issues, traffic issues, things like that can all be handled through the neighborhood association. And I think it comes with a lot more credibility when you have an association with a bunch of people that are all saying the same thing. Yeah, this is a problem.
Can I also interject a comment? Sure. If you all don't mind looking at the City of El Paso's ordinance on page 2, in subsection in 22.102.030A1, where it says membership, it's this one right here.
Okay.
Page 2. Here, let me show it to you.
I got Albuquerque.
It's right here. It's right here. Use mine.
I got the ordinance.
Okay, page 2, yeah.
Which one do you want?
Page 2 of the City of El Paso.
A1 or what?
Yeah, A1, yeah. So what I love about this particular definition of who can be members is that it includes business owners and owners representatives. And I think that's an important point because it's not just people living in the neighborhood, but it's also businesses that are investing in the neighborhood, and so that they can coordinate with that neighborhood to provide services for that community. Like, for instance, the Heights is a great example. It's actually the best example because the Heights is really an upper middle class to wealthy area of the city that has a lot of potential for attracting people who are moving into the city, right? God, I love that neighborhood, the Heights. Now imagine if the Heights had like its own neighborhood bar, had its own neighborhood restaurants, had its own neighborhood, these things that they're starting to develop in those areas, but they haven't they haven't fully developed. To me, that now you're not just moving into Alexandra Estates, you're not just moving into the country club, plantation. Now, all of a sudden, the Heights becomes a very viable, attractive place because it has some of those amenities and services that you find in the north, right? But maybe you never really have that development until you have some guy who's going to develop it 30 years from now, But if a neighborhood association gets together, and then you're Raul, and you want to come and, you know, invest some money in the Heights, you go to the neighborhood association and you get feedback from them of what it is that community wants. Now you have an inside track into what kind of development or what kind of investment you can make in that community, and then the entire city benefits. Everyone benefits, you know? And so that's why I think this is important for our city, you know? And then there's areas, like I'll give you another area, La Ladriera. It's a beautiful community, beautiful community. Every Christmas, they have posadas, 9 nights of posadas. It's amazing. If they had a neighborhood association, like they could get better organized, and then they could invite the entire city, like they could make that open to the city, and that could be part of the city's cultural festivals. And people come to La Ladriera every Christmas to come to those 9 nights of posadas and partake in that event. And which is something none of us know about now, because there is no way for us to know. These are the kind of things that neighborhood associations do. They bring communities, they bring neighborhoods to life. You know, and that's why, so I understand that there may be a budget question, and maybe what we really need to do is ask Nathan to find out what the city of El Paso has invested, like how much it's cost them, or maybe the city of McAllen, and see kind of what the budget item is, so that way when we present it to the city, assuming you all are interested in doing it.
It has to be done like fairly quick, because they're gonna present the budget to the council in about 2 weeks.
Okay.
So, I mean, this is gonna have to be like, it's, you know what I'm saying? He has, the city manager by July 20-something has to present a balanced budget to the city council.
How do we handle that? Okay, assuming you all
Okay,
would even be interested.
but there are ways to handle it, okay?
That's why we're here.
There are ways to handle it. That is just the city manager's budget. We can still, as a commission, make a recommendation to the city council and the mayor and saying, hey, this is something that we think is worth looking into. We've got staff that's looked into a budget on, can you find, for, I just gotta throw a number out, $100,000 to get this thing going. You know, and I think it has merit. I think we need to take this forth on 2 different ways. I think there's already a lot of areas that have homeowners associations, okay? But there's a lot of areas that don't. And I think in the areas that don't, the easiest way to get them started is through a neighborhood association. Because the minute you tell people it's $15 a month, you lost them, okay? And, you know, so there are gonna be parts of the community, and I agree with you. You know, you have La Ladriera and, you know, El Cuatro. And at one time, way back when I was with community development, we had every barrio in the city of Laredo identified in a map. And there was like 50 or 60 barrios and the names, everything. And I don't know whatever happened to that map, but I think it's time that we do something again like that, in my opinion. I mean, I think your idea has a lot of merit in terms of bringing that forth by neighborhood to meet the goals of the new comprehensive plan, which is mostly going back to the older parts of the city, mixed neighborhoods, where you have, like what you're saying, I got a neighborhood bar, you know, a little bit down the street here, where it works, where it fits. I've got a restaurant, maybe whatever, an antique shop or whatever, little
Tire shop.
tire shop.
If I can be recommended.
Sure.
The idea is great, 100%, but I see a flaw. Why creating an office with the city? I mean, anytime that you create an office, you create dependability, and you create inspections, and you create liability and cost for the citizens. And I personally wouldn't be interested in creating cost for the community, but it's doable. If we can create a board, or this committee can actually start looking at the options to create that type of community neighborhood members, not as a homeowners association, as Nathan was telling us, because that's different. I have created many homeowners associations in the developments and investments that I do. And those are subject, the people are subject to those particular rules and regulations that are covered in section 21 of the Texas Property Code. So there's already certain tools that guide the homeowners associations and regulate them. Whether they stand by themselves or not, that's a different story, because some of them, they have problems because they don't have any money. Now, if we do it, if we approach the community and try to create a prototype of what we plan to implement, then why go to the city and create a budget, spend money, and then do nothing about it? We see the community turns around and say, well, actually, you made a recommendation, and all we did was spend money, because still, I mean, we're not interested in doing this. So I believe that we need to create a certain form approach to the community and identify the leaders that will help this particular board or committee to bring this to the owners, because they have to approve it. I mean, in paper, it sounds great, but some of the areas in Laredo, they got boundaries. They said, this is where I live. This is Heights. That street over there is not Heights. So why are we gonna go ahead and limit? Why not say from Saunders to this area, we're gonna call a different name, an association or a community members? Instead of deciding whether there's a name or a particular area. Don't go over there, because that's where the people, the high middle class lives. We want to bring the whole community, the whole city together, not only because the posadas happen in Laredo, but rather because it's a good getting together the whole community, And I'm going to give you an example real quick. Right now, one of the items that we brought before this committee, it has a homeowners association, and they didn't even know. And that's very sad, because people are not educated. I mean, they actually put stuff before them, and they don't even know what they have. I personally, if I would have read this before, I would have been more prepared than your presentation here. But for whatever reason, it was not brought to us before the meeting. It would have been nice to have it before the meeting, but it didn't. It doesn't really matter. The idea is great.
Okay.
But I feel, I'll be just 1 minute. If we look at it in a way that is not gonna create a burden for the taxpayers, and we can actually come with an idea to approach the community, then I think it will work. I'm done.
Let me just, I wanna make sure I understand this correctly. So the city's involvement is basically to facilitate, or a contact person that me as the president of the association can call and say, I wanna have a street party for my association to celebrate something?
No.
How involved with the city?
Can we go back to the city ordinance? Let me show you.
Look, to answer your question of how involved would the city be, I believe a liaison is really what we're looking at here. You have a person who's gonna have to go out there and define neighborhoods, number one, in conjunction with the people who live in that area, to define what is this neighborhood or what is it called. All right, that'd be number one to get started. Then you have to have a will of the people who live there to say, yeah, we want to do a neighborhood association.
Yeah, but let's say we do it, so what is the benefit of me having?
Hold on, let me answer your question with
Go
the
ahead.
actual ordinance. Nathan, can you go to page 7? Okay, on page 7 page 7 is an outline, a list of what the city will provide the association. Okay, first thing is a current list of city departments, respective department heads, corresponding telephone numbers, and such information. Well, that's already on their website, right?
Exactly.
Right, so that's like not like, I mean, you're not gonna spend $1 million
That's already there.
for that. I mean, you already have that. That's one. Two, so a neighborhood may decide they want to do a newsletter, right? So they will help to create it, and they will help to give information in order to keep that newsletter with current information, would be an example.
Activity planning, that's what I was talking about.
Yeah, and then.
The city already does something similar to that with the calendar and so forth, that the
Yeah.
PIO and the city
Civic
secretary.
activities. Yeah, this is what I was talking about.
Okay.
So someone who is a liaison, a facilitator.
Like a liaison, yeah, it's like a city liaison. It doesn't even have to be a full, like, going back to what Mr. Dominguez is saying, Commissioner Dominguez is saying, maybe the first step is to to recommend that the city adopt an ordinance allowing the creation of the neighborhood associations with a request that maybe some department include the services that are here, so that it's someone that would already be working. You wouldn't even have to create a new department. It would just be providing the information that is available through this thing, through the ordinance.
You know what?
I would just,
Let me just say one thing. You may want to research the ordinances. There might have been something like what you're talking about created back in
02, 03?
No. When we had the model cities, what was that, late 60s, I guess?
Yeah.
I believe that there is something, that there might be an ordinance to that effect from that era, because they were looking at different neighborhoods. And they were looking at what can be done in neighborhood associations. You may want to see if anything pops up from back then, because there might be an ordinance in place. And it may lead you that it went to community development as the lead agency there.
So then what about the neighborhoods that have the association, the homeowner associations were non-active?
They're very different. Those are very
Let me
different.
just put it this way. A homeowners association could theoretically also be a neighborhood association, but a neighborhood association cannot be a homeowners association.
right.
All right? So all it is what you're doing is you're targeting a group of people who have the same community sense within that neighborhood and, who want to be involved in their neighborhood, basically, I think is what the whole thing is. So I don't think you need an ordinance allowing them to be created. I think what you do is you have because they can create themselves at any time. I mean, nobody can stop you from creating a neighborhood association. If you walk out this door and you go to your neighbors and say, hey, let's do an association, boom. You get a group of people together, and arguably you have a neighborhood association because they're active and involved in what's going on in their neighborhood and however they define themselves. This ordinance says that it's a group of 100 people or more, which is pretty large. That's when you become recognized, I guess. Maybe a little too ambitious for Laredo at this point, but what I think you're looking at is having, in all of these kinds of endeavors, you need an advocate for it. You need somebody who's going to constantly be, disseminating information and so forth, and who knows and has contact with the leaders of those different neighborhood associations, so that they know who to contact. Okay, so you got to have somebody who can do that, who can go out there and find these folks, talk to them, encourage them to start a neighborhood, however big or small, and then get them on a list and start working with them to expand their group and what is available. And so the only entity that has that kind of ability, because it's not just a neighborhood you're talking about what the chairman was talking about. You've got all these neighborhoods that are identified, so you got to find people in each of those. You got to have somebody go out there and talk to them, say, hey, this is what's happening right now. We're offering this. Are you all interested in having a neighborhood association? You'll get some people who say, heck yeah, and you'll get some people who say, not interested.
Maybe you could do it as a pilot program. I mean, I don't think it's a bad idea. I think the benefit outweighs the cost, really. If you were to hire someone, let's say 50,000
You know what,
a year.
we may just, if we could shoot this back to community development, okay? The department's already established, they already have staff, all right? It's just a matter of them, and they have to do neighborhood meetings anyway. Part of their consolidated planning process dictates that they have to have neighborhood meetings.
So there's already a department.
It's already there.
It's already
okay?
there.
So that might be, and when I read the El Paso
hand in glove,
ordinance, I
yeah,
quickly
it's a hand in
noticed
glove,
that
yeah,
they
kind of.
did it under community development over there. They call it a little different, Community and Human Development Department, but it's the same thing. It's already there. A couple of reasons. One, they need that input to do their planning for their federal funds. Two, they've got services they can offer right away. With a community development block grant, if the neighborhood association comes together and says, well, you know what, our streets, we got that problem. We need a park, or we need, a community center or something, there potentially is a funding item there.
But you also exclude
but
higher income neighborhoods, because those are only for lower income neighborhoods.
No.
But it would go one step farther, is what he's saying.
Hold on. Those are subdivisions that have HOAs. Now, they have that structure. See, look, here's the issue, okay? The issue is, if I move into a subdivision with an HOA, then there's already a structure in place to keep my property values up.
Right.
To increase my property values.
Right.
But if I live in a neighborhood that has no organization of any kind, whether an HOA or a neighborhood association, then you can put, 10 tires in the front yard and, there's just nothing I can do. I can call the city to come and take them, but then you're gonna kick my ass because, you see what I'm saying? You see what I'm saying? So you create.
Those neighborhoods don't, you're gonna restrict them from having
No,
associations?
no, they can have a neighborhood, they can have a neighborhood association, but they really don't need one because they have an HOA. The HOA is the vehicle under which they can meet and discuss the neighborhood.
I know several neighborhoods that have HOAs and they're not functioning and they need an association.
Well, that's because the people in that neighborhood have decided they don't really care.
Right, that's what happens.
But why are you not gonna create a regime for the neighborhoods that do care, that don't have an HOA?
The regime's already created.
And in the
No, there
case
is
that
no
you're talking
HOA.
about where you have an
Right, I
HOA,
mean,
No, there's a.
when you have an HOA that is non-functioning and all that, if the city reaches out and says, hey, you all want to create a neighborhood association, again, you have the opportunity for them to have that question. Hey, we have an HOA too, what do we do? And you can work with them. The other thing is those areas that have an active HOA, that's who you go to also for your neighborhood association, and you put them on your list.
Yeah, and the HOA.
And when something's happening, you send them, and they send it out to all their, I mean, there's apps now where these folks all keep in contact and stuff. It's pretty
You have an
incredible.
association with multiple homeowners associations involved.
You could.
You could, yeah, but here's the thing, the HOA, the HOA, when a developer develops a neighborhood, he's got this thing called conditions, covenants, and some of
Covenants,
this,
yeah, no,
and they're in there.
Yeah.
Right, and so you buy the land subject to those conditions, and so one of them is that you're gonna have an HOA fee.
Right.
The neighborhood association is not like that. Here, they will, whatever the rules are, like 100 or 50 people or 25 people, whatever we decide, and they organize, then they will petition to the city, will you recognize this? And the city says, yeah, you meet all the requirements.
Right.
Now later they wanna undo it, they don't think, the next generation, they don't care, whatever, I don't know. Then they can undo it as opposed to, an HOA, which
Right, I
you
understand.
have to
that.
amend
I
it.
think we need to define what the benefits are. The pros
And
and
this
cons.
ordinance actually has things that address that. I was looking through it. Like if they have to file an annual report and it says that they're still active, and if they don't, well, then they just slide off the list. And then it would be up to that person that the city has designated to just kind of go out there and check and say, hey, are you all dead, or are you still alive, you still interested, what's going on? And bring them back in or not. I mean, it's
It's a good idea all around.
I think it's something that we need to continue to look into.
and I don't think anybody's gonna do that to you if you report them for having tires in the front yard.
I don't care.
But I think we can continue looking at, I'm gonna read this literature because I haven't had a chance to read it, so.
So what's our next step then?
I think the next step is, once we all read the literature and we come back a little bit more educated, we can, give you some guidance. But right now, what I would think is that, knowing what I know about having worked for the city and the budget process, once I read through all this literature, it might be easier to see if we can take a department like community development to be in charge of this. Okay? I mean, that would be my guess.
We
And
can
I'm
look at-
guessing with you guys right now, because I don't,
Maybe we can do this, why don't we do like a small committee, like maybe you, me, and someone, and we can like sit down, so that and then we can make a recommendation at the next full P and Z meeting. We can meet in between, kind of look at the stuff,
yeah, we can do that.
and then make a recommendation for everyone to vote on.
Yeah, but I think you need to make it simple also. Make it simple for when you present it to the city council. Don't make it so complex.
What part of great neighborhoods is complex?
How are you gonna, okay, so just how are you gonna disseminate to,
God, it's a great neighborhood. God, that's so complicated.
I think.
Oh my God, I can't believe it.
We need to do a little bit of research. I think a lot of the questions that may have surfaced or that will surface after we read this, we may have some answers for if we talk to community
Or
development.
you can come to our meeting.
We will invite Arturo Garcia, and unfortunately have a bunch of new people, so a lot of the historical information is gone from there, so. But that was a department that handled this kind of stuff in the past.
Carlos, I'm with you. I support you on that. I mean, I like the idea. It's just that we need to put it together so people can buy it. I mean, we don't knock the door and tell them what.
All right.
I think we need to put the mechanism together so
Let's.
it's a great idea. We just need to work on it.
Let's look at this literature that we have in front of us on this research, and then,
Here's what I would offer. Anyone who wants, I don't know if how many can come without having to post it publicly?
Four.
4.
Okay,
Yeah,
so,
we like to post them anyway.
okay, well, why don't, I mean, we can have a meeting at my
Then if there's
office.
anybody in the public that wants.
I've got a large conference room, we can sit in my office. We have, you know, we've got a big screen with so that we can look on the computer, we wanna look up information.
Good.
Why don't we maybe plan for a meeting next week and we can sit down and kind of figure it out? And anyone, except, well, should we post it? Wait, you can't post it for.
Well, here's the thing.
Let me ask you a
First
question.
of all, you
We're
have a
meeting on
workshop. You have a
Tuesday.
workshop next
On
week.
Tuesday. That's correct, right? On Tuesday at 4?
4.
4:30. Okay, so we have a workshop Tuesday at 4:30.
4:30 to 9.
Yeah,
But we're gonna work on the comp plan, right? That's the comp plan workshop.
yes, that's the comp plan.
So why don't we meet on Wednesday?
That's fine.
Let's get it done, guys. Let's get the
Wednesday,
comp plan done, let's get this neighborhood association.
we can meet, I can meet
Get it done by the end of the
anytime,
month.
Wednesday at, what time? I can meet
I can't.
8 to 12, and then after 4, because I've got meetings in between.
How about Thursday? Mr. Dominguez, what?
Thursday.
I can do Thursday, not Wednesday. I got
Thursday. Yeah, I think
Why don't we
I
do
can
Thursday at 4:30?
Thursday, what time?
I think when you present to the city council, you should have somebody from the association that's existing right now. with some
Yeah, of
members,
course.
and come and,
Not me, you're saying.
Huh?
Not me, you're saying.
Let's-
Okay,
First,
Let's
let's
get
get,
proven
let's get
success,
some
yeah.
logistics down.
4:30 on Thursday at the offices of Person Whitworth,
On Colton?
602 East Colton, second floor.
Okay.
I'll be there at 5.
How many people are gonna be, how many commissioners are gonna be there?
Well, I guess you should post it, right?
Well,
Just in case more than 4 show up?
yeah.
Yeah, post it. Post it. This will be the,
1 to 5, 1 to 5.
Or we can kick one of them out. Like Raul, get out. Mr. Dominguez is here.
this will be on
I'll be out of town,
this
so-
will be on the 12th
Yeah.
at 4:30.
4:30.
Yeah, post the meeting.
Do we have to?
And then here? No, we don't have to meet here.
We're discussing an issue here. I think that the mandate from the council is if there's a quorum, it has to be recorded by PAC.
If there's a quorum, good escape. So it means we can only use 4.
Okay, I'm out.
He's out.
I think that's what it.
Who else can make it Thursday at 4:30?
Raul is out.
Make it Thursday.
12th,
Next Thursday.
next week. We have, Tuesday, we have the comprehensive plan workshop at 4:30.
4:30.
And then Thursday, we're planning to meet on this neighborhood association information. Can you meet?
So, Mr. Dominguez is in,
Yeah,
you're in,
I'm
I'm in.
in.
We need one
2,
more.
3, 4, 2.
Wait, no, that's, okay, Mr. Villarreal, right?
No, because you need 4 only.
Only 4, we can only meet.
Well, look, the thing is that
And Raul can't come.
if we have
Well,
to,
if you want, we can check the availability of this room and.
I was just about to say that if it's a technicality where they have to record the meeting because of the new ordinances or whatever, we can always meet here anyway.
Yeah, we can do it here.
We can meet
You wanna
here.
meet here?
It was an, I don't know.
I mean, if we have to,
Or we could meet over in
It's
the conference
available,
room.
we can do it here.
yeah.
We can check for either here. I think there's a historic here at 5:30. But the conference room 1 may be
That
available.
conference room would work.
Okay, if it's not available, then we'll do it at my office and only 4 people can show up.
Well, we'll find out tomorrow and then we'll be able to post it.
Okay.
If that's it, we'll post it.
Or else we'll just,
Be careful, you're gonna meet at his office, I'll comenzar a cobrar.
eh?
He'll charge you.
That's okay, you can charge.
I'm expensive.
Start charging you.
Que lo apunte en hielo.
No.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
But I want you